Happy May, ladies, and happy graduation to all of you who are graduating, whether it be this month or the month that's coming up. We just wanted to wish you happy graduation. Please make sure to check out our graduation message where we just want to wish you a happy graduation. So I don't know if a lot of you have heard this, but that was definitely the way I used to act, or I used to say, I used to speak. And I've heard a few people, a few ladies also say, you know what, when it's school time, it's school time. I don't have time for relationships. I just want to focus on school. But now that I'm graduating, now that I'm done with school, now I can have time to date, to look around, to kind of weigh the options out there. So the episode today is the truth behind dating. Now, dating is not in the Bible. I don't know if you know this, but there are no place in the Bible where it talks about dating, or do we even see dating. Now, dating, because it's not in the Bible, some people say, well, maybe God is just leaving it up to us. He's leaving up to us to find out what to do, to use our own guidelines in order to approach this topic. Now, before we go any further, let's first have an operational definition of dating, and this is going to come from thefreedictionary.com. I will be reading a little bit today because I just have some points here, some major points that I don't want to miss, so if you don't mind me reading. So thefreedictionary.com defines dating as an engagement to go out socially with another person, often out of romantic interest. Now, like I said, dating is not in the Bible, but we see other things that are in the Bible. Like, God talks about tithing, He talks about adultery, He talks about murder, He talks about relationships between parents and children. But dating is not there. And there are two most important decisions. People always say there are two most important decisions in life. First is where you will spend eternity. Second is marriage, who you choose to marry. So if dating leads to marriage, but God doesn't address dating in the Bible, then why not? Why is it that we don't see dating in the Bible when dating should be important because it leads to marriage, and marriage is the second most important decision? So that's what. So let's see how relationships were approached in the Bible. Like I say, dating, because dating is not the Bible. Let's see how people used to come together in the Bible. So I'm going to take it from 3 examples. There are a lot of love stories in the Bible, but I'll just take it from 3. So if we see Isaac and Rebecca, I love that story. These are 3 different stories of different ways that they approach marriage. So when we see the story of Isaac and Rebecca, Isaac is the son of Abraham, and Abraham is growing old, and he demands one of his most trusted servants, to go back to his hometown to find a wife for Isaac. Now the servant goes to the hometown, and he realizes that this is an important matter. It's not like he can just pick out of any women that are out there and be like, I like her, no, I don't like her. But he understood that this is a serious matter. And we see in the Bible, he takes time to call upon the Lord and ask for a sign, for God to tell him, to reveal to him who was going to be Isaac's wife. And lo and behold, God reveals to him that it would be Rebecca. He brings back Rebecca, and she marries Isaac. The second story is David and Michal. David being King David, but at the time he wasn't king. Saul, who is the father of Michal, at the time that was the Israelites were fighting the Philistine. Goliath, as we all know, the big giant guy, wanted to challenge the Israelites. So King Saul said, whoever will defeat Goliath, I will give to that person one of my daughters in marriage. So we see David. Now, I don't know, but David just demonstrates such a great courage, such great charisma, faith, that there is no way you can go wrong with that man. So David comes along, a small boy, he defeats Goliath, and the Bible tells us that Saul just saw that there is God, the Spirit of God is in this man. So afterwards, he gets married to Michal. The third story is the story of Boaz and Ruth. Ruth being a Moabite woman who left her country to come to Bethlehem. Boaz is the big rich man guy, and when Ruth asked Boaz to marry her because he's next in line, he's the next kin in line, Boaz says, well, I can't marry you because I'm not actually the next king. There's one before me, but if he chooses not to marry you, I'm more than welcome to marry you. And the following day, they go, I think they go at the gates of the city, and there are elders there, people, every witnesses are there. And when the next king refuses to marry Ruth, Boaz takes Ruth as his wife, and they get married. So we have these three different stories of different ways that people approach relationships. But we can find some similarities in all these three stories. One is it really involved a lot of people. It was involving families. Whether we see Isaac and Rebecca, we see that Abraham, the father, is conscious about this decision of marriage, and when they go to his hometown, Rebecca's family is also aware of this marriage decision. They don't do it in secret, they don't do it behind closed door, but the families are involved. David and Michal, this is Michal's father who is involved in the decision of picking David as his son-in-law. Boaz and Ruth, we see that the elders are aware of this decision, and Ruth's mother-in-law Naomi was also aware. So this, when people were gathering together, it wasn't just a one-on-one thing, but families, elders, witnesses were aware that these two are going to get together. These two are about to get married. Second thing, I also see that God is centered to all those relationships. We just saw that in Isaac and Rebecca, how the servant understood that this matter is way beyond his comprehension. So he asked the Lord for a sign. He prays to the Lord. When we see about David and Michal, Saul saw that David had the Spirit of God in him. He had the faith. I mean, there is no one who does not believe in God who will be able to face Goliath. You need to have faith in God to believe that you can do it. So he saw in David that Spirit of God that was in him. It was like, here's the guy. And in Boaz and Ruth, we see how Boaz praises Ruth for her godly virtues and how she was able to just leave her country, leave her people, leave her gods to come here, take care of Naomi and all those things. We also see that there's no physical attraction. There's no closeness, meaning that the people, that those, whether it be Isaac and Rebecca, they didn't just say, okay, let's first get together, let's see how long it takes, whether I love you, I don't, whether I want to marry you, I don't. No, when they knew that this was the will of God, poof, marriage. David and Michal, when Saul saw that this guy knows the word, he knows God, poof, marriage. Boaz and Ruth, the same thing. When they saw that there is God in Ruth, bang, marriage. So these are the things that I see that are common with these three stories. And we see that those marriages were blessed. There was no divorce, there was no premarital sex. Everything just went according to plan because the people knew that this is God, this is the way to do it. Now let's go to dating. So when we talk about dating in general, I want to date you, to have the time to get to know you, to see if you are marriage material. So let's say I see Paul. I'm like, gosh, this guy is tall, dark, and handsome, just the kind of guy I want. And Paul sees me and is like, gosh, this chick, I just want her. So there's this physical attraction, and you're like, okay, let's date. So you're spending time together, and all this while, I am trying to figure out if Paul is the one, if Paul really he hits every single point. I want to make sure that Paul is the one I'm comfortable with, I want to marry. So that can take weeks, that can take months, that can take years, but I want to make sure that Paul, I want to study him. But if we just, on the side, if we look at Proverbs 3:5-6, it says that trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. The reason why I brought this passage is when you're dating, it's not like I'm trusting God to direct my path, because if I were trusting God to direct my path, I wouldn't date in the first place. I would first of all obtain the approval of God, and then be like, okay, because God says so, then I will go out. But even if God said yes, why do you still need to take 2 years, 3 years to get to know the person when God has already put in the seal of approval? So dating is much more of me taking that responsibility to make sure that that Paul is the one. Because you're dating the person, and I'm not saying that happens all the time, but most of the time, because you're dating the person, because you're close to the person, that's when you get that emotional attachment. You're kissing, you're engaging in sexual intercourse. I mean, you're just having those emotions, you're being attached, and you're not sure if the person is really going to stay, and if this relationship breaks, then it's troubling for you, because you're like, I put all this, I poured my heart out to this man and he just left me, and now you move on to another person. I think at a point we need to step back and ask ourselves, what are we doing wrong? How can we do it God's way? God's way is what? God's way is that we put this matter into His hand. Let Him direct us. This is not something that we have to rush and say, okay, because my age is going on, I'm growing older, I have to get someone ASAP. But the way we see it for Boaz, for Isaac, for David, this is a matter of God, where God has to be the forefront. We need to fast, pray, involve people, families, elders. We need to involve people that are trustworthy in this decision, not do it to ourselves. Oh, it's just going to be a one-on-one thing. My parents might not know that I'm dating Paul. My parents might not know that I'm dating Jeremy. Let me just do this behind their back, and when we're ready, we'll tell them about. No, but the way we see it in the Bible is that everybody is aware of this. People are putting this marriage into God's hand, and when they have the approval, you don't need any 3 years, 4 years to get to the person. When you know that this is God's will for you, when you know that this is the will of God, and you get that premarital counseling, and you know that, this is it, you get married. And that's what we see in Isaac and Rebekah. When the servant knew that this is Rebekah, this is the wife for my servant, when Rebekah went to Isaac, they didn't spend a year trying to get to know each other to see if they're comfortable. No, the Bible tells us that they got married. And I just wanted to challenge us ladies to break the cycle, to break that cycle of the roller coaster, of the emotional trauma, all those things, and do it God's way. So this is it for today, and as always, stay blessed ladies. Take care. Bye.